Chapter 1: The Betrayal. The sound of rain hitting the glass windows filled the dimly lit living room. A chill ran through Kiara's spine, but it wasn't from the cold. It was from the man standing in front of her. Her husband, Adam. She had sensed something was wrong for months. The late nights, the distant stares, the way he barely touched her anymore. But she never expected this. Never. "I want a divorce." The words came out calm, too calm, like he had rehearsed them 100 times. Kiara gripped the arm of the couch, feeling as if the floor beneath her had cracked open. "A divorce?" she echoed, as if saying it out loud would make it less real. Adam sighed, rubbing his temple. He looked exhausted, like a man burdened with a difficult choice, but Kiara wasn't blind. There was no sorrow in his eyes, no hesitation. "I didn't want to hurt you, Kiara." His voice was laced with feigned sympathy, but she saw the truth underneath. He had already moved on. There's someone else. It wasn't a question. It was a certainty that settled deep in her bones. Adam hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Lauren." Kiara let out a hollow laugh. "Of course." Lauren. The woman who had been his first love, the woman he never truly let go of, even after marrying Kiara. She clenched her fists. "So what was I, Adam? A replacement? A second choice until she came back?" He looked away. "It wasn't like that. I cared about you, Kiara." The past tense stung like a knife to the chest. "I should have seen this coming," she whispered. The signs had been there, hadn't they? The way he had always spoken about Lauren like she was some perfect, untouchable memory. The way his expression changed whenever he saw her. "You don't love me," she finally said. The words tasted bitter on her tongue. Adam sighed. "I thought I could." A single tear slipped down Kiara's cheek, but she quickly wiped it away. She wouldn't cry in front of him. Not now. "When did it start?" Her voice was sharper now, more controlled. If he was going to tear their marriage apart, she at least deserved the truth. Adam hesitated, then sat down on the couch across from her. "Lauren came back into my life a few months ago. It wasn't supposed to happen this way, Kiara, but I realized she's the one I've always wanted." A cold, empty feeling settled in her chest. She had given him everything, her love, her loyalty, her entire being. And it still wasn't enough. She inhaled deeply. "And what do you expect from me? To just step aside and let you waltz into her arms?" His expression darkened. "I don't want this to be messy, Kiara. I've already spoken to the lawyers. If you sign the papers, you'll be taken care of." A sharp laugh escaped her lips. "Taken care of?" Like she was some inconvenient obligation he needed to settle? "I don't want your damn pity, Adam." He ran a hand through his hair. "Kiara, don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Harder?" She stood up, her body trembling with barely contained rage. "You're leaving me for another woman, and you want me to make it easy for you?" Adam's gaze hardened. "I'm not the villain here, Kiara. You and I both know this marriage hasn't been working for a long time." She wanted to scream, to throw something, but she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Instead, she forced herself to take a deep breath. "Fine," she said, voice eerily calm. "You want a divorce? You'll get one." Something flickered in Adam's expression. Surprise, maybe. He had expected her to beg, to fight for him. But she wouldn't. Not anymore. She turned on her heel and walked out of the room, ignoring the way her vision blurred with unshed tears. As soon as she reached their bedroom, she closed the door behind her and let out a shaky breath. Her reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. Eyes red-rimmed, shoulders slumped. How had she let this happen? How had she become a woman so easily discarded? But as she wiped her tears away, a different thought settled in her mind. This isn't the end. She may have been broken tonight, but she wouldn't stay that way. And if Adam thought she would fade into the background while he played house with Lauren, he was gravely mistaken, because this was only the beginning. Chapter 2: The Proposal. The divorce was swift and ruthless. Adam wasted no time in removing Kiara from his life, as if their years together had meant nothing. The lawyers handled everything in cold, clinical discussions where Kiara had no real say. Adam and Lauren had already decided the terms before she even stepped into the room. She walked away with nothing. No home, no security, and certainly no love. The house she had once decorated with care, gone. The life she had built with Adam, erased. Now, as she sat alone in a quiet cafe, gripping a cup of untouched coffee, she realized something painful yet freeing. She had nothing left to lose. She had spent weeks drowning in grief, but today, something inside her had shifted. The pain was still there, raw and unbearable, but beneath it was a slow-burning ember of something new. Resolve. She wouldn't let Adam's betrayal define her. Looks like hell finally froze over. The deep voice cut through her thoughts. Kiara blinked and looked up. Across from her stood James Carter, Adam's older brother, tall, imposing, unreadable. If Adam was warm charm and easy smiles, James was cold steel and sharp edges. They had always been opposites. Where Adam craved admiration, James commanded respect. And now he was here, sitting across from her as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "What do you want?" Kiara asked, voice flat. James studied her for a moment before setting down a folder. "I came with an offer," she scoffed. "If you're here on Adam's behalf, you can leave." He didn't flinch. "I don't do Adam's bidding." That caught her off guard. She had assumed James, like everyone else, would be on Adam's side. "I've been watching the way he handled the divorce," James continued. "It was messy, cruel, unnecessary." Kiara clenched her fists. "That's how he is," James nodded. "That's why I'm here." He slid the folder toward her. She hesitated before opening it. Inside were legal documents. Marriage papers. Kiara's breath hitched. "What the hell is this?" James leaned forward, his piercing gaze locking onto hers. "A business proposal." She couldn't hide her shock. "You're asking me to marry you?" "In name, yes," he said coolly. "In reality, this is about power." Kiara shook her head, pushing the folder away. "You're insane." James remained calm. "Think about it. Adam discarded you as if you were nothing. He married Lauren, thinking he had won." He tilted his head. "But what do you think would happen if his ex-wife became his brother's wife?" A sharp inhale, a slow realization. Adam and Lauren had paraded their love in front of everyone. The world saw Kiara as the pitiful, discarded wife. But if she married James, everything would change. "Why would you do this?" she asked, still trying to wrap her mind around the idea. James's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Because I don't like losing." That sent a shiver down her spine. James Carter was a man known for winning. He wasn't just rich, he was powerful, with influence that ran deep in the business world. If he was doing this, there was more to it than just revenge. Kiara swallowed. "What's in it for you?" James leaned back. "A convenient alliance." She didn't believe that for a second. He tapped the folder. "If you say yes, you'll have protection. You won't have to fight Adam's world alone. You'll have access to resources, power." His voice dropped, eyes darkening. "And more importantly, you'll no longer be the woman Adam abandoned. You'll be the woman he lost." A sharp silence settled between them. Kiara's pulse pounded. She knew what this was. It was an opportunity. A dangerous, unpredictable opportunity that could either destroy her or make her stronger than ever. She thought about Adam and Lauren, probably reveling in their victory. She thought about how the world pitied her, whispered about how she was nothing without Adam, and then she thought about who she could become. She reached for the pen. James's lips twitched in amusement as she signed the papers. It was done. The next time Adam saw her, she wouldn't be his ex-wife. She would be his brother's wife. And that changed everything. Chapter 3. Rising from the Ashes. Kiara had expected regret. She had expected to wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, questioning whether she had just made the biggest mistake of her life by marrying James Carter. But when she opened her eyes the morning after signing the papers, all she felt was clarity and a sense of power she hadn't known in a long time. The mansion James owned was nothing like the home she had once shared with Adam. Where Adam's house had been warm, familiar, filled with remnants of a life they had built together, James's estate was cold, a fortress made of glass and steel. The help was efficient and silent, moving like shadows as they prepared her things. A separate wing had been arranged for her, making it clear that this was no traditional marriage. And that was fine. Because Kiara hadn't married James for love. She had married him to survive. Her first appearance as Mrs. Kiara Carter was at a high-profile charity gala. She had expected the whispers, the stares, and they came. Is that her? The ex-wife? She actually married James? What is she playing at? But Kiara had spent too long being the woman everyone pitied. She refused to shrink beneath their scrutiny. Dressed in a midnight black gown that hugged her frame, hair swept into an elegant chignon, she looked every bit the wife of a powerful man. But it wasn't the dress or the expensive jewelry that made people take notice. It was the way she walked into the room, standing beside James with a quiet, undeniable presence. The first test came quickly. Lauren. She was draped in an ivory gown designed to make her look angelic, innocent. Adam stood beside her, looking like the perfect husband. For a brief moment, Kiara's heart clenched. This should have been me. But then Adam's gaze met hers and froze. The last time he had seen her, she had been broken, weakened by his betrayal. But tonight, there was no trace of the woman he had discarded. Kiara met his gaze head-on, offering him the smallest, most devastating smile. "Kiara," Lauren said, voice sickly sweet. "I had no idea you were coming." Liar. Everyone in this room had been waiting for this moment. Kiara tilted her head, feigning surprise. "Oh? I assumed you would have heard by now." She reached for James's arm, letting her fingers trail over the crisp fabric of his suit. "After all, I am a Carter now." Lauren's smile flickered. Adam's jaw clenched. James, ever the strategist, remained impassive, but Kiara felt the slight shift of his stance. A silent approval. She had just won the first battle. Later that night, as their driver took them home, James finally spoke. "You played that well." Kiara turned to face him. "You sound surprised." "I expected you to hesitate," she scoffed. "If you thought I would be too weak to handle this, then you chose the wrong woman." James studied her, eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "I chose exactly the right woman." The weight of his words settled over her. This wasn't just about showing Adam and Lauren that she had moved on. This was about power. James hadn't married her out of kindness. He had chosen her because she could be useful to him. And Kiara had no problem using him in return. "Then let's make sure we both get what we want," she said. For the first time since they had met, James smiled. Adam couldn't stop watching her. Every headline, every article, every damn picture of her and James together burned in his mind. Kiara, who had once belonged to him, was now something else entirely. Stronger, untouchable, and worst of all, happier. Lauren noticed, of course. "Why do you keep staring at her?" she asked, voice laced with irritation. Adam forced a smile. "I'm just surprised, that's all." But it was more than that. When he had left Kiara, he had expected her to fall apart. Instead, she had risen from the ashes. And for the first time, he felt the sharp sting of regret. Chapter 4: The Unraveling Secrets. The marriage had changed everything. In just a few weeks, Kiara had gone from being the woman Adam abandoned to the woman everyone wanted to understand. She had expected scrutiny. The media pounced on the shocking Carter family scandal, spinning endless stories about her sudden marriage to James, society whispered, questioning whether she was some kind of scheming opportunist or a pawn in a greater game. But what no one could deny was that Kiara had transformed. The Kiara of the past had been content with love and domesticity. The Kiara of now, she was stepping into a world of power, and she was hungry for it. Yet the deeper she went, the more she realized something unsettling. James Carter was hiding secrets. It started with small things. Strange phone calls that he always took in private, silent exchanges with people Kiara didn't recognize. And then came the letter. She found it late one night, tucked inside James's study. The envelope was sealed, but the name written on it made her blood run cold. Lauren. Kiara stared at the name, fingers tightening around the paper. What business did James have with her? A familiar voice spoke behind her. "You shouldn't be in here." She turned sharply, finding James standing in the doorway. His expression was unreadable, but there was a quiet warning in his tone. She held up the letter. "Why are you writing to Lauren?" James exhaled slowly before stepping inside, closing the door behind him, "Because there are things you don't know." Kiara's pulse quickened. "Then tell me." For a moment, he said nothing. Then he walked to the bar and poured himself a drink. The silence stretched before he finally spoke. "Adam is not the man you think he is." She frowned. "That's not exactly a revelation. He destroyed me and threw me away like I was nothing." James turned to her then, his gaze piercing. "That's just the surface. What if I told you Adam's marriage to Lauren was never about love?" Kiara's breath caught. "What are you saying?" James set his drink down, his jaw tightening. "Lauren isn't just Adam's first love. She's his weakness, and someone is using that against him." Her mind raced. "Who?" James hesitated before finally saying, "Lauren." Kiara froze. "That's not possible," she whispered. "Adam chose her over me." James leaned forward. Or maybe Lauren made sure he did. The words struck her like a slap. Could it be true? Could Lauren have manipulated everything? Kiara had spent so much time resenting Adam for choosing Lauren, for throwing their marriage away. But what if Adam had never been the one in control? What if Lauren had planned everything? Kiara felt the weight of the revelation pressing down on her. If James was right, then everything she thought she knew about her past was a lie, and there was only one way to find out the truth. She had to face Lauren herself. The opportunity came faster than expected. A charity gala, one that Kiara and James were expected to attend. And of course, Adam and Lauren would be there too. As Kiara stepped into the grand ballroom, wearing an emerald green gown that commanded attention, she knew tonight would be different. This wasn't just another event. This was a battlefield, and she was ready for war. Lauren found her first. "Kiara," she greeted, her voice smooth as silk. "You look radiant." Kiara smiled, tilting her head, "And you look exactly the same." Lauren's eyes flickered, but her smile remained intact. "I heard you've been quite busy since the wedding. James keeping you on your toes?" Kiara didn't rise to the bait. Instead, she studied Lauren, searching for cracks in her perfect mask. She thought about what James had said. Lauren orchestrated this. Lauren made sure Adam chose her. And if that was true, then Lauren had something to lose. Kiara leaned in, dropping her voice to a whisper. "Tell me, Lauren, was it worth it?" Lauren's smile faltered. "What?" Kiara held her gaze, feeling the power shift between them. "Destroying my marriage, manipulating Adam, did it give you everything you wanted?" A flicker of something crossed Lauren's eyes. Guilt? Fear? Then, just as quickly, it was gone. "You're mistaken, Kiara," Lauren said softly, but there was a crack in her perfect composure now. "I didn't destroy anything. Adam always belonged to me." Kiara's lips curled. Liar. But Lauren had just confirmed something without realizing it. She was hiding something. And Kiara was going to find out exactly what it was. Later that night, James found her on the balcony. "You spoke to her," he said, more a statement than a question. Kiara nodded. "She's lying." James exhaled. "She always is." Kiara turned to him then, something hard and determined in her gaze. "I want to know everything." A slow, knowing smirk crossed James's face. "Then let's begin." Chapter 5. The Ex-Husband's Regret. Adam Carter was a man who always believed he was in control. He had spent his life making calculated choices, believing that he knew what was best, not just for himself, but for those around him. Leaving Kiara had felt like the right decision at the time. Lauren had been his first love, the one woman he had never been able to forget. When she came back into his life, it had felt like fate pulling him toward the future he had always imagined. But lately, fate seemed to be mocking him, because every time he turned on the news, every time he stepped into a social gathering, every time he closed his damn eyes, he saw her. Kiara. Not the woman he had left behind, but someone else entirely. The woman who had once adored him, the one who had begged him not to throw their marriage away, was gone. In her place was a woman he could no longer touch. And the worst part? She was thriving. An unwanted realization. Adam sat in his office, his hands tightening into fists as his assistant set down the latest financial report. His company was stable, but there was a problem. James's influence had begun outmaneuvering him. It wasn't just the business world either. James and Kiara had become a power couple, making waves at every major event. He had thought Kiara would fade into the background after their divorce. Instead, she had stepped into a spotlight so blinding that it made him look like a footnote in his own story. And Adam hated it. A knock at his door pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. Lauren walked in, her expression tight. "You're distracted." Adam exhaled, forcing himself to focus. "I have a lot on my mind." Lauren sat across from him, crossing her legs. "Let me guess, Kiara?" Adam didn't respond, which was answer enough. Lauren's lips pressed into a thin line. "You made your choice, Adam, like she's not your concern anymore." But that was the problem. She was. It wasn't planned. Adam hadn't intended to see Kiara alone, but fate had other ideas. He spotted her at an art exhibit, one that James was supposed to attend, but James wasn't there. She stood near a painting, her back to him, unaware of his presence. She was wearing a fitted wine-red dress, her hair cascading in soft waves down her back. For a moment, he was transported back to a time when she was his. When she used to look at him like he was her entire world, before he destroyed everything. Taking a steadying breath, Adam stepped forward. "Kiara." She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. For a long, tense moment, she simply looked at him. Not with anger, not with sorrow, just indifference, something twisted inside Adam's chest. I'm surprised to see you here alone, he said, trying to keep his tone even. Kiara arched a brow. James had business. Ah, silence stretched between them. And then, unable to stop himself, Adam finally asked, Are you happy? A flicker of amusement crossed her face. That's an interesting question. What answer would satisfy you, Adam? He clenched his jaw. I just want to know. Kiara tilted her head, studying him. Then, with the kind of poise he had never seen in her before, she said, I was never happy with you. Adam sucked in a breath. You wanted me to be something I wasn't, she continued, her voice calm but firm. And when I wasn't enough, you discarded me. I spent so much time thinking that I had failed. She smiled then, a sharp, knowing smile. But now I see that you were the failure, Adam. You let go of something you didn't even understand. His stomach twisted. He had expected anger, maybe even lingering sadness. But this was finality. She didn't love him anymore, and that was the worst punishment of all. Adam returned home that night, restless. The conversation with Kiara wouldn't leave his mind, and Lauren noticed. She slammed a glass down onto the table. Do you regret it? She demanded. Adam looked at her, startled. What? Lauren's eyes burned with fury. Do you regret choosing me? His silence was deafening. Lauren let out a bitter laugh. You do. Lauren. No, Adam. She stood, shaking her head. You don't get to do this. You don't get to walk around acting like the victim when you made this choice. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. I didn't expect her to become stronger without you, Lauren snapped. That's the problem, isn't it? You wanted her to break, but instead, she's winning. The words hit him harder than he wanted to admit, because Lauren was right. He had expected Kiara to crumble. Instead, she had risen. And now, for the first time since the divorce, Adam Carter felt something he had never felt before. Regret. True. Suffocating, inescapable regret. Stay tuned for part 2 of Kiara's journey. What will Kiara do now that the weight of Adam's regret is pressing down on her, and the truth about James is slowly unraveling? Will she continue to rebuild her life, or will the ghosts of the past pull her back into the chaos? The next chapter of this tangled love story is only just beginning, and the twists are far from over. Make sure to subscribe for the next thrilling installment. You won't want to miss what happens next. Part 2 is coming soon.